Hello, this is your host, Todd Lewis of the Braves of Folly podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Don't forget to follow me on Telegram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can support me on Subscribestar, buy me a coffee and locals. Don't forget to check out my Substack as well. And if you like the thumbnails that I have, you can check out Censored Anon. He's in the description below. So these are all fine gentlemen that I met at the conference last weekend for the Scyldings event, one of whom was an actual speaker, Mike of Pol, aka Mop. So, Mike of Pol, why don't you tell us about your speech and your thoughts on the event?
Well, I guess I'll start with my feelings on the event first. It was really, really good. I think there was kind of like a looming question as everyone was like filtering in, like everyone had this kind of like, yes, my boys, yes, let's hang out. But also, I think like, everybody was kind of sitting back like, okay, what are we going to do? What's our plan? We're not really just here to just hang out. And, I saw like immediately as soon as like the more organizational speeches like SOs and stuff like that. And the Old Glory Club gave their speeches. It was like, yes. Okay. We're putting things in motion. Everyone kind of realized, hey, we've actually got some organizational stuff going. We've got a place that we can contribute more to. And so I think that like put a little bit more levity into the event overall, just like immediately answering that kind of looming question. And of course it was great to see all my bros again. So that was awesome. On the flip side, like my speech in specific, I guess it was a more technical speech about, our common foundation is actually something like the negative vision, but above and beyond that, our shared vision is the need to put one foot over the other. Even if you can't join an organization or help there, if you must stand alone to preserve something of value, then there's a way for you to do that. And so it was, my speech was more about like habits of mind, twisting visions of some very like deep left, thinkers like Baudrillard or even libertarian thinkers like Cody Wilson. And Rene Girard was in there as well. Made mention of quite a few lefty thinkers and kind of twisting their vision, developing a habit of mind so that no matter what project you're doing, you can be successful. And so I feel as though like I really got screwed going right after Mr. Bagby. Oh man, I can't follow, especially my first time ever public speaking. I was like, no, they can't put me after this guy. That was a 12 out of 10. So that, not to say that I felt snubbed, because I was enjoying sitting there listening to his speech. But, I think there was a bunch of guys who came up after and wanted to talk about some of the stuff that was alluding to with, forming businesses. How do you make your businesses both ideological and resilient? And so there was a bunch of guys that were really interested. So that made me super happy.
Yeah, that was great. Now, the first of our Oros gang, professional question asker, professional non-reader, Jay Ford. We do have to work on that last bit there, buddy.
Hey, yeah, sometimes it's a work in progress. Life is sort of like that, but hey, you gotta enjoy it either way. It's it's one of those things where a lot of my stuff that I do get is very online and very straight from the feed. You're able to see how ideas get distilled and how they practically apply to different communities. So I thought it was interesting to see how people take the ideas from the books that they read, especially with like Grant Brooks' canon, and how you transfer that into like, okay, this is where we're at. These are the ideas that motivate us, and these are the things that do that. And for me, who's a real fan of asking questions, being able to ask a simple question of just like, okay, so how does X actually affect the way that we think, and then getting a clear answer on that just means that we're talking with some real high quality guys there. So I do feel ashamed. Yes, I do not read as much as I should. However, questions are my crutch that I lean on to take care of that.
So can we compromise with professional audiobook listener?
Yeah, sure. I've actually heard some phenomenal audiobook excerpts from Mr. Bagby as well. He does that on his channel. So everybody check him out.
Okay, nice. We also have our second members of the Oros gang, Khonsu, aka Johnny Bravo. So, what were your thoughts of the event, Khonsu?
So it was a lot different from last year. Last year was kind of like this Dionysian intoxicated event where everyone's just like, oh man, there's actually like normal people who also believe exactly what I believe and are actually successful and aren't just like some guy on like 4chan or on some like obscure Discord server. So the first event was just everyone was just generally just really excited. This event, yeah, people were excited, but I would say that people fall into like basically two camps of like people who went last time and people who didn't. And so the newbies have this kind of like intoxicated air about them. They were like just they're kind of like stupefied because you see these people online and you finally get to actually meet them, whether it be you talking to them in Telegram or where else, or one of your favorite content creators. Um, but I would say for the people who've been there, it's more of like, oh, I kind of like, hey, it's nice to see you guys again, but what are we gonna do? So they seemed a little bit more laid back and a little bit more practically minded. And I would say that because most of the people I met before, because I went to the original event too, um, they tended to stray away from like theoretical discussions. Like the first event, they had a lot of like theology debates, more philosophical minded ideas. But now it seemed like a lot more pragmatic. Like there's one guy there who had like 1,000 acres in a state I'm not going to even mention, but who was just looking for people to like come help him settle his land, which I mean it was excellent. So you had actual business owners there who are actually wanting to sell their goods to our guys. So it started looking up on this whole entire parallel economy idea that has been spat around in the right.
Well, yeah. So, I think would be fun is like sort of trying to highlight what was just the most fun or funny interaction that you had there. So, there's a couple that come to mind for me. When I was don't remember if it was over a meal or afterwards in the evening over a few drinks, but I was sort of like bringing people up to speed on my sort of theory that there's a malevolent hyperintelligence behind technology. And this one guy looked at me and said, I don't mean to be rude, but are you talking about the satanic conspiracy? And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And I went into, but I was making the case from not a theological point of view, but from other observations and such. It was also fun. I think it was Saturday, in between talks, talking about getting people up to speed in the mold bug position that I have. Obviously, it's like 80 hours to watch. If you haven't watched it all, I totally get that. And it was fun explaining to people in a sort of like short TLDR version what all that was, getting them up to speed. A couple of people were disappointed Moldbug didn't show. They wanted to see a struggle session. I like to think Moldbug was afraid, but so yeah, Mike of Pol, what were some of your either fun or funny moments that you remember from the event?
Yeah, well, there was a good moment of levity when after Prude's speech, that Saturday, we got all the way to lunch. I got hit with a pang of anxiety. I was like, oh my gosh, I just saw Prude speak. He is a way better speaker than I am. So I was so nervous that, I skipped lunch and just sat down and started re-annotating my speech. And then and then all the OGC boys just come and sit with me, and Prude sits right next to me, and and then they're all like could see that I'm freaking the heck out, and then they try to give me some encouraging words, and then Paul Fahrenheit goes, "Do you trust yourself?" And I immediately quipped, "Just hell no." And so everyone got a giggle out of that. No, just that was a good moment of levity for sure. It's it all turned out all right. Like I said, first time really doing public speaking, so that was that was cool. That they saw that I was a little bit nervous and gave me some reinsurance, so it was a little bit wholesome chungus as well.
Yeah, and you did do well for your first time speaking. The other thing that was kind of funny between you and me when we first met, I think it was actually on Friday.
Yes.
You said don't go after me. I'm a Baudrillard fan. I'm like, well, don't worry, so am I.
Well, no, I was worried because in my speech I kind of twist it and go like with a heretical reading, like my own personal heretical reading of Baudrillard, and so I was hoping you weren't going to roast me for it. I was like, oh no, we got another Baudrillard guy, so I can't just make stuff up. Oh no.
All right, Jay Ford, top funny fun moments.
Well, yeah, I mean, last time at the event, I had built a little bit of a reputation, and it was funny because everybody was walking up to me and was just like, "Hey, you're the professional question asker," and I'm just like, "Guys, come on, I don't get paid for this. I'm an amateur question asker." But it's just really awesome seeing a bunch of people, come up and about. And one thing that was like super funny is like you talk to the people there, and like everybody there is just so genuine, and it filled me with like a little bit of laughter, how it's just like you can say something to somebody, they will take it at like 100% face value and then roll with it. And I just thought that was incredible that we've got some of the guys there that you can say real stuff with, and they'll do with that. So that was kind of funny. The other funny thing that I probably did is I was talking to who was I talking to? He was talking to a guy from the event last time, and he's just like, and he was like, "Hey, did you end up doing this?" And I was just like, "No, but I will ask my planner if I got that." And he thought that was funny. But for me personally, the event was a much more somber tone than last time. There was much more levity at the first one for me, and then the second one was much more serious, practical minded sort of thing, where it's like, hey, let's see what we can actually take care of. Let's see what we can actually get done. So that's where it was for me.
Okay, Khonsu, top funny moment.
So most of my funny moments is a lot of comments I made to Mike of Pol because I sat right next to him the entire time, basically. So in one of someone I think it was Bagby's speech, he mentioned Lauren Southern, and if you don't know of Lauren Southern, she like basically was married to a glowy and hid it for a while and then got divorced. And I turned to Mike of Pol and whispered in his ear, and I was like, she liked his glow stick. And then Mike of Pol just started dying in the middle of the speech, which was really bad of me. But some other jokes that it was just a lot of joking. I'd say happened more in the after party because they had an after party usually after your events. You can make it. A lot of jokes. So I made a couple BAP jokes about the only tan part of my body is my family jewels, and just typical bro talk.
So of course, no fun time would be full without all the Dave roasts. Like literally after his speech, he's like, "When you gonna finish Shrek? When you gonna finish Distributus? When you gonna do this?" And like Dave just got roasted. Any thoughts on that, guys? Fun with you, Mike of Pol.
Oh man, I've actually jumped in on the timeline here today. Dave was asking for some suggestions on on new video ideas, and I of course I threw up there the video about distributism. When are we getting it? But that's all in good fun. No, it's I actually want to add a new roast to Dave because I sent him he had to miss my speech, so I sent him my outline and stuff like that, and I'm not gonna say he didn't get it in his stream Scyldings overview thing where like my speech wasn't like focusing on technology stuff like that, and I was like, oh shoot, I should have given it to him earlier or something like that. But yeah, it's another roast. But no, I've been digging at Dave all in good fun here lately.
So yeah, Jay Ford was not finishing Shrek Dave's boomer moment.
I think I got to give credit to the guy. He did have a kid right after he recorded part of it, so it's one of those things where it's like he's never going to finish it. And of course, we've got AI now where we can probably copy his voice and finish it for it. I think there was even one that was posted on the timeline a long time ago. It's called Distributist Shrek Video, and it's actually like a channel or something like that. But I mean, I gotta, lay off of Dave a little bit. He's precious. He's a treasure. He's not somebody who you know, he's just got that kind of charm about him. But like a lot of our guys also have that. So it's like I don't know. I don't want to yank his leg too hard, you know.
Yeah, fair. Khonsu.
Yeah, I don't have much to really add on this one, unfortunately. I don't really have anything that I can really tease him about aside from what was already covered.
All right, now I don't know because we all kind of went our separate ways afterwards. How many of you were at the after party? You said you were, Khonsu. Were you there, Jay Ford? Well, of course you were. You drove me there. Duh. Michael Pol, were you
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, I was there. You didn't see me?
I must have been busy. So yeah, that's probably something to talk about. I spent a lot of time with James Bagby. That was your doing, Jay Ford. You helped arrange that. We had some cool Civil War moments. Took some deep dives into Civil War history. That was the majority of my after party. What did you do at the after party, Jay Ford?
Well, a lot of the stuff is, making sure that connections stick and connections stay. Because you can have a conference like this, and you can say, "Oh, well, we did a good job. We talked about things, and we actually have practical ideas out there floating in the ether, and stuff that we're going to do." But the thing is like for every good idea that you have, for every practical idea that you have, for every plan that you have, follow through is one of the more important things. So I made sure that I caught the people who I wanted to talk to, discuss their ideas with them, say, hey, this is stuff that you're good at. This is stuff that you should keep on doing. Here's some practical stuff that you can go on. And the great thing is, like with a bunch of our guys, is because they're so practically minded, you can give them advice and they'll give you advice. And it's all good stuff. It's going to be obviously stuff where it's like, oh, hey, this is stuff that's actually going to help me out. This is actually going to be stuff that, moves our conversation forward. Dave is a big proponent of making sure that we actually have proper synthesis and we actually have proper discussion going on. And for me, that really shows in the after party bits. It's following up with people saying, "Hey, how are you doing? This is what we're doing. This is what we're planning." So, I mean, I had like an hour and a half conversation with you about like 8 different topics about your entire channel in the car ride over there. And then once we got there, it was just some real good conversations. Basically, follows up on speech. I got to ask a lot of questions, and I really liked it.
Yeah, Michael Poole, how was your experience with the after party?
Oh, I had a raucous time. The the Crack Motel mix up, that was a phenomenon to behold for sure. That was amazing. No, it's once we all kind of scattered, came back together and scattered again. It was fun to hang out at the bar with a bunch of the guys and just throw back some brews and have a good time, and just like the real meme sharing, the meme synthesis really happened there. And me and Charlie talked about some woodworking things. I've taken up hand tool carpentry, and I was showing him that I just built a dresser for one of my buddies and stuff like that, and he was showing me some of the stuff he built. And so that was super cool, as well, just talking about like hobby stuff and just getting like way more relaxed sort of atmosphere. So it was I think I headed out there at like 2, and I was just like, I'm so tired. There's no way I'm gonna make it if we wait 1 second longer. And so me and Liquid Swan jumped out of there.
So Mike of Pol gets in as a Baudrillard bro. Well, I don't know what level of simulation was the after party.
Oh no, it was level 1 for sure. It was or no, is level does he call level 0 base reality?
Well, I don't think he calls it. I think 1 is just a attempt at a faithful reproduction of reality. That's where it starts.
No, it was real. It was just
It's
straight
real?
up reality.
Okay.
It was real.
It's reality. So we're breaking through the Borgia map. Is that it?
Yes, 100%.
Awesome. Okay, Khonsu, your experience at the after party.
So I missed like half this after party. If you ever watched the movie, an old movie called Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, it was my experience was basically that. So I was driving ESO, I think it's ESO Centris now, ESO Centris. I drove him to the event initially, and then I also drove him to the after party. So we got caught in this like horrible tornado, like storm. It was just pouring down rain. I could barely like drive on 20 on this highway. And once we passed the actual storm itself, there's a tree blocking the entrance into the city where it was. And I mean, we're only like 20 minutes away, so I was like, oh, gee, well, I guess I'll go through this country road, which was also a really bad idea because there's more trees down. And I thought to myself, when life hands you lemons, you make lemonade. And as soon as those words exited my mouth when trying to pass another ground tree, I got stuck in the mud. And then thankfully the natives helped me out, and I eventually made it to the conference. So aside from the utter travesty that was my trip, I got to go to when they switched over to the actual bar itself. And mainly I just kind of like talked with Mike of Pol and Charlie and I think Red Hawk a little bit. And mainly I was just talking about like the idea for like the Old Glory Club and what they're trying to do because I have experience in charitable organizations.
Cool. Now, Jay Ford, you and I drove down there together to the after party. What were some of your highlights from the drive?
The discussions were really good. A lot of it was covering bases of just your bibliography of what you've done here on the channel, and then we talked a little bit about practical steps forward. We talked about short-term plans and long-term plans, which is always the stuff that really interests me whenever I'm talking to somebody. It's interesting. I talked to about 4 or 5 people about their short-term and long-term plans, and um, a lot of our guys got a lot of W's over the past year, and I think they're going to keep on getting some nice, solid wins for the years to come, as long as they keep the heat up. The stuff that we specifically talked about though was localized communities, making sure that we've got basically our necessities on lock, and then building out from there. Basically making anti-fragile communities, which I think is an interesting endeavor for people to do. And then we also talked about future plans for content creation. I myself am a little bit too preoccupied to do content creation at the moment. Most I can do is, come on as a guest for people. But you're planning on moving into even more content creation, which I think is fantastic, and I definitely encourage. But yeah, it was a good and fruitful discussion the entire way there. I don't think I stopped. I don't think we stopped talking like a second of it.
No, I don't think we did. Mike, did you carpool with anyone? If so, what was your drive?
Yeah,
Or
it was me and Liquid Swan. So we carpooled for the whole event, and so I couldn't have asked for a better compatriot to hang out with and kind of take in this event with. No, it's our drive was a little bit better. We were just maybe I don't know 5 minutes in front of Khonsu, and we got like the brunt of it face on of that storm, but made it into town before any trees came down. So Khonsu was calling me like, dude, what the heck am I gonna do? And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna grab some straps and we're gonna head back out, figure out who has a truck. And that was a little bit of a nightmare. But on the ride over, I mean, me and Liquid Swan definitely built a rapport, and we talked a bunch about like monarchy and stuff like that, and just like rehashing those old points, because like at some point you really don't care what you're talking about. You just want to like BS with your bro. So that was fun.
all right. Is there? I mean, you already sort of opened up Kansu with the drive, but is there anything else you want to add about the experiences on your drive to the hangout?
Yeah, so Iso is one of the main guy, or I think he's pretty high up there in the Beowulf Foundation. So I spent most of my time just kind of spitballing ideas for little projects in Beowulf and certain uh, seeing what would stick and what wouldn't stick. Because a lot of guys have different skill sets. I met a guy that there was a butcher. I met another person who's a data scientist. So we have a wide range of skills, but part of the issue is trying to find a niche for these skills to kind of integrate with a whole. So a lot of our conversations were about, okay, what projects can we kind of get off the ground that would support other people? I don't know if I'm allowed to share anything, so I'll just leave the specifics out.
All right, cool. So one of the things that I want to show real quick, and I didn't show this last time, probably one of the highlights of the whole event was Friday evening when Charlie gave me this wonderful gift. If you guys can see it, the Praise of Folly, the book for which my channel is named. I'll open it up to the title page so you guys can all see it. This is what Charlie got me. It was so cool. That was one of my
Nice.
one
Very
of the
nice.
highlights of the whole thing. Now, obviously, not everybody got a gift. I know that, but what would be like your highlight moment, like the thing you're going to take away afterwards? J4.
I absolutely loved the fact that there was a bookshop set up there. I loved the fact that you're able to pull all good books there. That was like a neat little add-on thing that was there. But I think probably aside from that, aside from that just being there, I had like an hour and 30 long conversation with just one guy who was showing up for the first time, about how does he, a guy who's in corporate America, a guy who's way up there and doesn't want to like reveal his name, how does he move forward and actually help our guys and stuff like that. And I mean, I kept talking to him, and and we got some good ideas for him. But it, really what was going on there is like the conversations that you had over there, especially the very deep ones, the ones that weren't just in passing. Y- I think that there was a massive opportunity there for people to make real, meaningful, lasting connections. And even like all of our guys are like top tier. But I think like some of these guys just have never had like a an ear to listen to. They never been able to talk anybody through this stuff. So just being the guy to like listen to some of these guys was like honestly the best part about it for me.
All right, Mike of Pol, take away remembrance moment.
Oh man, it's actually easy because it's both a Bodrardian point that goes along with symbolic exchange, gift giving. That's if you guys are interested in Baudrillard, the giving of gifts is something that you'll come to appreciate more for its deeper meaning. And Mr. Liquid Swan left me with a parting gift. It's called Nefeltoffel. It's basically old Viking chess, and he got me a set of it, and he left it with me in a good home, and that just blew me away. He was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I got you a gift," and I was like, "No way! I should have thought of getting him a gift." But next year, whenever he comes down, I'm sure we're gonna buggy together again. So I'll be sure to get him something nice. But that really blew me away for sure.
Yeah, Khonsu.
So, what really stuck with me were the speeches mainly. I would actually say Radlib's speech really is really touching to me, it was centered around justice, and justice is the foundation for our movement. Because like a lot of the guys who end up coming to our movement are either say like disaffected elites, or people who would be in say a managerial role in like a big company, or starting a company of their own, and various other positions, but a lot of those things were denied to them. And I mean, part of it is that it could be easy to turn into an idea of kind of being vengeful and being uh, just seeking to hurt other people. But the way that he frames in the idea of justice is that you're trying to build uh, a future in which everyone has a place in this kind of natural hierarchy, and also that hmm, that our justice is a foundational value will allow us to kind of put away these petty differences that we have, because it's different from having a big tent ideology. And the idea is that if we have a firm idea of justice as a value, we can work together. And it doesn't matter if you're like a Neoplatonist or someone's a Catholic, as long as you share this idea and this kind of virtue ethics, especially the idea of justice, we can work together. And a lot of these petty disagreements that often fly over the internet and are just poured on, just malicious actors will just pour fuel on the fire in this regard, or suddenly just don't matter.
Yeah. Now, we've all sort of at one point or other brought up George Bagby. And I think we all had a lot of really interesting interactions with him. So J Floor, what would you say was your most memorable interaction with Mr. Bagby?
The dude has that teacher stare, you know,
Mhm.
the kind of stare that, like, if you say something, then it's like he almost asked a question in class. And the first time he hit me with that, I just nearly laughed because it was a sincere and honest look. But his speech about especially the dissection of what his proxy doxing was, and then how he dealt with it, and basically the anatomy of the doxing, and what the boomer response to it is. I thought that was a very interesting and very illuminating thing for me in particular, because it really highlighted, like, okay, what are you supposed to do in this sort of situation? It sort of goes along with the same thing of what our friend Ryan Turnipseed experienced with the Lutherans in their church. And I think it's he's very much a person who's got the lived real world experience and the mind to teach people in good ways. So I think I look forward to, like, any more content that he puts out. He puts out some very good stuff on his channel. I've been basically binging that as much as I can since the conference. And yeah, I think he's got a very wise head on his shoulders, which is something that you don't see in a lot of people nowadays.
Yeah, like there's I guess for me, I spend more time talking to him about our enthused interest on the Civil War, or I sort of pitched the hot take that the best general of the Civil War was the relatively little known Union general George Thomas, who won the smashing victories at the Nashville-Franklin campaign in 1864. But we also talked about Reconstruction, like at the after party, and it was like a whole like Civil War lecture between the two of us. It was pretty fun. So, Mike of Pol, your experiences with Mr. Bagby.
Oh man, he's gonna give me a reprimand for not remembering the name of the tale, but I was helping him there at the end to kind of like hold doors open for him so he could pack up his wares, his little bookstore he brought along, and he was telling me just about, it's more of a blackpilling story about the kind of treacherousness of the next generation, and how they would sell out their parents to the FBI and stuff like that. Or that was the base of what he was trying to thrust at there. And he told me a story about it's one of these classical stories about a guy walking on the road, and they cross paths, and then homeboy asks him where are you headed? Oh, I'm headed to the city because I'm testifying against my parents and stuff like that in court. And it was like they even tell also, like, nothing is new under the sun. And so he immediately whipped out that story and just broke it down exactly. And it's like, yeah, and that's why I see a lot of these kids today. And that was a black pill. But on the same point, it was that was kind of baffling to see him just like, oh yeah, it's just like this. And just, he has a wonderfully formed mind. That man is so smart. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he does have that respect and admiration and internalization of the classics. I think the story you're thinking of is the Platonic dialogue, the Euthyphro.
Yes, Euthyphro. Oh man, I'm gonna get in trouble for
Now
that one.
that is a mop moment. Sorry. All right, Khonsu, did you have any interactions with Mr. Bagby? Or you were there for the lecture, so at least that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get much interaction with Bagby. I think the most was I helped carry some of his books out because he had a huge library that he was selling. But listening to his speech, it was quite refreshing to find someone actually stand up for their beliefs when it specifically matters, because a lot of times we like to say that we have these values, but when put to the test, people tend to fold like a wet paper. And so just going through his story and how he was fired from his own work because someone else got canceled, and he basically said, okay, what you're canceling him for is against your own values, and making logical, coherent, and palatable way of arguing, and not just saying coming out there and just being extremely aggressive and bullheaded like you would be over the internet. So I was genuinely impressed. He was also a very, very kind man, because I believe we got Iso and I got late to the dinner part, but I think he ended up either buying dinner or finding food for Iso because we haven't eaten, and Mike of Pol was very nice to share a sandwich with me.
Oh yeah, speaking of generosity, when I was at the after party, I got 2 brews bought for me, and one of them was Mr. Bagby. When people are buying you brews, is that the rule that you're in, Mike?
Yeah, generally, I was I was trying to tempt Mr. J. Burden to stay by just like making sure he had a beer in his hand at all times. So I would just like pass it by as soon it was I guess like culturally appropriate to start drinking. And so I would just pass it by in the hallway and just slap one in his hand before he even like saw me coming. So it didn't work. He ended up leaving before my speech, but no, if someone's getting you beers, you're in for sure.
So here's something. I've heard other people mention this as well. Obviously, the way that the speeches were scheduled, they would go up to pretty late, like around 9 or 10 o'clock, and then of course people are going to want to. I think on Friday night, the last event was an OCG event, and then they want to talk and hang out, and that might be 3 or 4 hours, so you're up till 1 or 2 in the morning. And I wonder if it would be easier if there was like another day reserved and all the speakers got done around 7 or 8 and we could hang out and not have to stay up till 2 in the morning. Does that seem like something that's plausible or possible? Mike of Pol.
A week, yeah, make it a whole week. I would love, I would love for it to be a week long conference. Now, I think it would be good, but I think how potent and distilled the event is. It's a mad rush. I don't. I'm hesitant to say that we should change it because of Lindy effects. It's been this way for the last 2 times. Why mess with the formula? You've just got to get with the times. And by get with the times, get with the old ways. So keep it the same, and it's kind of like you don't get to do that very often, where you're just like, here's all my dudes, and we're just gonna hang out and smoke cigars on the patio until 2. I kind of like that energy. I'm a what Jay Burden say? He said, yeah, I think you're the latest person away from libertarianism, like in our group. So you still got that party animal in you. And then I proceeded to then fulfill that destiny. He said, "Help for me by keeping everyone with a beer in their hand." So yeah, I kind of like that energy. I say don't change it too much. We could add another day, but then again, it wouldn't be as potent, I think.
What do you think, Jay Ford?
Not really my call. I think the potency of the event, like Mike mentioned, is a good point. I think if it were to extend any further or any longer, you'd have to have a very good, very precise reason for that. Typically, events that do go longer than a weekend, they're for very high level business people, and people pop in and pop out during the entire thing. Sometimes they'll only come to 2 days out of the entire conference if it is a week long. So I don't know. I think having a very specific slot, very specific days, it works. It works. And even though people are up late into the night, a lot of that stuff is that's where people get a lot of socializing around. People get a lot of talking to real people, and that's useful for at least the networking effect, at least for the guys there. Typically, the speakers, they do dip out fairly early because they do have to give speeches in the morning. But
Not me.
regardless, regardless, you can always you can burn a little fuel to sleep maybe 4 hours a night, and then get up in time. It's possible to do for a weekend.
Okay, Khonsu.
Yeah, I'd hate to mess with a formula that kind of works. They did change it a little bit from last year. I think last year they had more speakers on Saturday, so it was kind of like back to back to back to back. I think they added in like a couple 5-minute breaks between these speakers so people could go stretch their legs and get a drink and some coffee so that they can stay awake after staying up all night. Um, so I mean, the hard part is that if you wanted more time to speak with people, you'd have to reduce the amount of speakers. But all the speakers are, I think they have a good amount of speakers because it always allows for new blood to kind of come in and really just show off what they got. And so it's hard to say. I mean, preferably I like to mingle. I think I tried to talk to basically every single person in the event to the best of my ability.
So now, Mike of Pol, you mentioned the whole ex-libertarian crowd, which is a growing crowd, and I'm definitely I'm not recent. I guess I've been there a while. This is going to leave, unfortunately, Ryan and Radlib a bit outnumbered. But being like a new entry into the ex-libertarian crowd, how did your ex-libertarian arc begin?
Well, see, that's funny because I've always been kind of like a pastiche of like a bunch of different things just because of my interest. So, I mean, really, it came out of Cody Wilson, who is someone. He's a thinker that I always like what he has to say, and he's kind of like a libertarian praxis guy, but the theory behind it is, Baudrillard. It's literally just post-structuralism, and that's kind of how I snapped out of like just rank libertarian mode. But I mean, more generally, I think, the elite theory analysis of power is more accurate than just a value-free analysis of human actions. And, there's a whole bunch of little things I think added up eventually to me kind of like putting all that away. Not to say that's, well, it is kind of childish a little bit, but I'll give a devil's advocate here. It's most libertarians, that are cool enough for me to hang out with. Like, I have a personal friend enemy distinction with them. I mean, like, I was just getting in fights on Twitter with one of these gun printer guys. Like, that's where I hail from, is from gun printing. And I was getting a fight on the timeline just the other day with one of these guys, just talking about his pornography habits and how he scrapes, basically these different sites for, his habit. And I'm just like, yo, dude, like, this is a total moral evil. What you're doing. You're automating, you're power automating vice. And, and he was like, bro, you're cool with 3D printed guns, but you're not cool with, some anime titties. And I'm like, yeah, Chad, yes. First of all, I hit him with the Chad, yes. And that post got a bunch of likes, but that's, the negative externalities that are uncontrolled for social hazards and stuff like that. That's kind of like where I've stepped away. It's like, no, I do want a power to contain social hazards. So that's kind of where I come from generally.
No, Jay Ford, we didn't talk about this, I don't think, on our drive. But did you even have a libertarian past to escape from?
Couldn't say that I do. I've always been fairly far right. In fact, I've sped run several groups in the past that probably are less savory. But I'm one of those kind of peoples who is always in. I don't know. It's just never been a disposition towards for me. I've never had the disposition of like you can leave well enough alone. I that's just the non-aggression principle just has never held for me.
Khonsu, were you ever under the thrall of the NAP?
Not really. So my past is kind of strange because I just kind of like real life lurked, and I kind of understood that things weren't right. Whether it be how some of my teachers in the school system behave towards me and different demographics, whether it be women, other ethnicities, all the rest. But I'd say intellectually, what really saved me from ever becoming like a liberal in general or just like a left libertarian is Nietzsche, which is kind of strange to really talk about. But essentially, Nietzsche kind of he explains the I think everyone's kind of familiar with the idea of slave morality versus master morality, and to basically boil it down is that slave morality is when you form your sense of identity and morality through not being someone else, and that is inherently unhealthy because it feeds off of envy and resentment. And what Nietzsche really talks about is a master morality, which is a positive vision for the future. And I am moral because I am courageous. I do this. Um, so that I kind of just noticed that like the SJWs are just peak slave morality and how unhealthy, unhappy they were. So I kind of prevented that. I did kind of go through the whole entire like, oh yeah, man, weed's cool, bro. And then I saw my friends, what happened to all my friends who became stoners, and so I quickly turned around once I started seeing the real life consequences of these ideologies.
So I think the next question I have is favorite talk. I think my favorite talk was actually Oren McIntyre's because in a lot of regards, while he was, obviously for the Blaze, he uses his boomer speak. A lot of what he said sounded very much like the things I say. He talked about if bureaucracy seeking to maximize organization or efficiency rather. And of course, I thought of Jacques Ellul's definition of technology, which is technique, which is maximizing efficiency. And you could have easily, I think, substituted technology or technique for bureaucracy, and you wouldn't have changed this speech too much. Plus, he talked about energy getting more expensive as energy gets scarce, which, of course, is another word for collapse. It's almost like he's been reading Tainter and some of these other guys. And it was like, I don't know if he was reading those guys or watching my channel. Either way, that'd be cool if he was. But he was saying things that were very closely aligned, not with the same labels that I'd use, but very closely aligned to what I'm thinking and producing content about. I never got a chance to ask him if there was any more to it than that, but I thought that was the most interesting. J Ford, most interesting favorite talk.
Oh, if I had to pick one, gosh, there's so many really good ones. I'd have to say probably my favorite one, the one that spoke to me personally. And this is the same as last year's, probably not me, not use speech. It doesn't do a whole lot on YouTube, but he brings very high quality speeches, very thoughtful dialogue to the table, especially stuff that seems like it can be counterfactual. Like his talk was basically, against ideological purity, which is a very strange thing to hear from people, especially on the right side. And he always adds a very personal touch to it, and I was simply blown away by it again. If I had to, again, I would hate to pick one specific one, but I think that would be it for me.
All right, Mike of Pol, I'm going to have to ask you to recuse yourself. Other than yourself, who is your favorite speaker?
Oh yes, of course. It would have to be. Oh, it's gonna have to be Dave. I mean, his speeches are so whimsical and meandering yet focused, and just driving right to a point. While it has a dancing character, I guess I'll say. And that's Dave's speeches are always very whimsical, and I very much enjoy how much levity he brings to the event every time he speaks. And it shows in the crowd. Everybody loved that speech. So I'm gonna be a pseudo populist here and say, yeah, what everyone else liked.
All right, same question to you, Khonsu.
So I'm really split between Radlib and It's Me, It's Not You, or It's Not Me, Not You. Um, because both of them really touched upon the core, the foundation that we need to build upon, and that is that we share similar values. So we all basically have a very similar idea of the end goal. We just disagree about the means. And since we disagree about the means, that doesn't mean we need to go like beat each other up over it and dox each other and just be absolutely just terrible to each other. Because in reality, we're striving for the same goal, and the means we could figure that out along the way. We can have a couple mishaps here and there, but what's really important, and what both of these speeches kind of drive home, is that you're not alone, and we all share the same values, and we should work towards building a future that we want to bequeath to our children or grandchildren.
All right. Well, we're nearing the end of the hour, so I think what I'd like to end with then is, where do we see all of this going? I know at the beginning of the stream, a couple of you guys mentioned there was a lot of successes in the lives of both professional and personal of the people that were there, which is sort of laying a foundation for future support. I mean, that was part of what Charlemagne was getting at in the Old Glory Club, the idea being that those that were already becoming or are successful could help organize networks and funding to help other people get started, which that's its own separate thing, but it's of course related to this event. So that's interesting. And I think what we can hope to see is closer connections, closer networking with people, and hopefully a more coherent view of, and this is sort of what I try to get at with my own personal recap last week, a more coherent view of what the nature of the problem is we're dealing with. Because modernity is still, or in this case, post-modernity, is a very difficult animal to skin. And we know things are wrong, but we don't necessarily know in what way they're wrong in all cases. And we don't necessarily know how to fix those wrongs. So I'll hand it to you, Mike of Pol.
I mean, I think that's exactly it. We have a few tools at our disposal, and it's time to put the rubber to the road. It's time to put one foot in front of the other and then do it again and again and again. It's join up or stand alone. You've got two choices. You can join the old glory club, Beowulf Foundation, Exit Group, New Founding. There's a bunch of really, I mean, those are the big four right now, and I think I'm definitely, I've got a chill Exit Group, of course, but I've been in talks. I want to start a Old Glory Club chapter where I am locally. Me and Esso talked about, like, maybe a one-time event or a little project that I could donate my time to for Beowulf. Like, you can mix and match, people, and if not, buy the event book, look at my speech for Habits of Mind if you want to stand alone. But no matter what you decide or who you decide to to court for or who you decide to attempt to court you for your time in terms of these organizations, we've got to start moving. And I think that's the big takeaway. We are the coalition. There's no one else. We're united in this negative vision with some base positive values. Let's take it and run with it. There's no one else coming to save us. Let's get to work.
Okay, J4.
I'm of the mind that whenever we do take steps forward, there are always going to have to be steps that lead to additional steps. And on a journey of 1,000 miles and a journey of 100 years, it always begins with the steps that you take in front of you right now. So the question that is in my mind is, what are people who went, what are they going to do in their local areas? What efforts are they going to put in there? What are people who are watching this, what are they going to do in their own lives? And what are the organizations going to do in order to meet the particular demand? Because if we have these organizations and they're not able to take additional steps, if they have a feeling of learned helplessness, or if they have not enough going on, or if they don't do enough simply, then the rubber's not going to meet the road. And in a race for civilization, every second counts. I mean, over the course of like the next few weeks, I would hope to see something new develop in my area, but that's because I'm going to be working on that. But I don't know. It comes down to is there going to be enough people networking with enough guys trying to magnify our stuff across enough domains? And I mean, Charlie last year gave a speech of like maybe there's a million people who believe the stuff that we believe. A lot of it's going to be outreach. A lot of it's going to be agitating for the right stuff. A lot of it's going to be convincing people. And I just think as long as we continue to level up and we continue to actually like work on that, then we'll be good. But I mean, again, it's completely down and dependent on the people who we've got here. So I don't know. It's to be seen.
Okay, Khonsu.
First, I want to revisit the last question briefly. I wanted to mention that Charlemagne made an excellent speech too about a case study of the Spanish Civil War and how to essentially establish a political alliance. I just wanted to briefly mention that was an excellent speech. But aside from that, going forward, uh, times may be extremely dark right now, especially for someone who lives in a blue state. It's absolutely terrible, and also in like a very major city. Uh, Despite living in these dark times, they provide you an opportunity to express your virtue. Um, I believe there was a Platonic speech or was an ancient Greek philosopher who essentially boils down to that the gods truly favor those who they term with hardship because they can actually prove that they actually believe in something that they can overcome. And I think going forward, we need to, well, I would ask you, the audience, to think about what are some skills that you have and what you can provide, not necessarily to Beowulf or the Old Glory Club, but hopefully you do so, but what you can provide to your local community and what value that you can add. And maybe you say I don't have much. Uh, Start thinking in the terms of what skills can I get in order to get get in a position where I can be helpful, and just take heart that you're not alone.
All right, so before I get to the very, very end, somebody who I guess is an organizer overheard one of my recommendations. Jay Green River at Praise, I'm ahead of you. I'll do something akin to that in 24. Extra day for speakers. So that's great to hear. So, Jay Ford, if people want to ask you questions instead of being the question asker, how can they get a hold of you?
Of course, they can find me on Twitter at J_FordXYZ. You can also find me on Telegram by the same name. You can find me on Discord as J Ford. Well, actually, it's just Ford 8714. Or you can email me, but I don't check my email, and I'm probably not going to give it out. But yeah, not really anywhere yet. I may start YouTube, 6 months down the line if I can, but that is to be seen. I will let people in my circles know if I do.
Okay, based Beaugerard Respecter, Mike of Pol, how can people contact you?
Of course, you can. You can reach me in the cybernetic control structures that undergird this reality. So first of all, you can find me at Mike of Pol on Twitter. You can also find me on Odyssey, where I have a small series that I'm getting back to now that all this event craziness is over, called the Homework Series, which is a analysis into my favorite postmodernist thinkers. That would be Cody Wilson, Beauregard, and Nick Land. Nick Land's an outlier there, so yeah, in terms of it's not postmodernism, but you can. It's an interesting series. I also put up all of my serious music there. I put up all my joke, funny music on Twitter, and then you can also find me at Substack at mikeofpol.substack.com.
All right, Khonsu, where can people find you?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to find me. I guess you could find me on Telegram mainly. I wouldn't. If you're part of some of the same servers I am, you could probably find me on Discord as the Johnny Bravo dude. Not the username. My username's the same, but wherever you see a Johnny Bravo, you'll probably find me. Aside from that, hopefully one of these days I'll get into content creation with Substack, but currently my life is very, very busy with career development at the moment and helping the OGC and Beowulf out.
All right, everybody. It was a pleasure having you on. It was very great to meet all of you in person at the conference. And here's to next year. This is Todd Lewis, the Praise of Fight podcast, signing off.